Hi everyone, it's Lara. Thank you so much for watching. In today's video I am going to show you how I created my faux suede skirt. This is the fabric that I have used. It really looks just like suede, but it is absolutely cruelty free. It is stretchy, you can wash it, you can also iron it with very low temperature, so it's really low maintenance. I created the pattern myself, and if you want to know how I have done that and how I created my skirt, then please keep watching. Let's have a look at how I created my pattern for the skirt. So I made a basic sketch of the skirt here, and our skirt consists of 4 shapes that look like this. I have here the shape already with the measurements. First I had to measure the circumference of my waist. In my case it's 28 inches. Then I measured the circumference of my hips, which is in my case 38 inches, and then I measured the distance between my waist and between my hips. This is 8 inches in my case. So then I had to do a little math. So 28 inches divided by 4 is 7, which is now this measurement, so this is 7 inches. Then I had to measure 8 inches and make a mark here. And then I divided the circumference of my hips by 4. I came with 9.5 inches, and this is then here the distance. So now I had a guide, and then I could draw a line. I measured how long my skirt is supposed to be, which is about 17 inches, because I had to account for the seam allowance on the bottom, and it's always easier to make it shorter. And then I had my shape. Maybe it's gonna help you also to imagine that this is kind of a triangle where the top has been cut off, and that could also help you to create the curve on the top. You just have to imagine that you are here and you need the same distance everywhere. So this can't be just straight, it needs to be a little bit rounded. And I'm also gonna show you in a minute the tool that I used for that helped me. So we have the basic piece for our skirt, and then this is the waist belt. It needs to be 28 inches plus about 2 inches for the seam allowance, and I made it 5 inches wide, but this is also accounted for the seam allowance. So this is the basic pattern for the skirt. I'm going to write you also in the info how much is this in centimeter, just in case you're from Europe. This is the kind of tool that might be very helpful for you. It's a guide that is rounded on one side and has also a straight line here. I mostly kind of figure out where the middle is and use this for creating curves like the one we need for our skirt.
Okay, let's start. So here we have the 4 main pieces for our skirt. Make sure that you know which side is the good side and which side is the bad side. This is going to be important once you start pinning the pieces together. It is always best pinning the pieces so that the pins are at right angles with the edge of the fabric, because that way you can leave the pins in while sewing. I pinned the rest of the skirt together the regular way, just for sake of this video, because it's easier to show you how the shape looks like when the skirt is pinned together. Once all the pieces were pinned together, the skirt looked like this, and then I went to my sewing machine and I started sewing everything together. I used a regular straight stitch. Next, I turned the skirt around, I took my zigzag scissors and I cut back a little bit of the excess fabric. I always like doing that just to make sure that the excess fabric has the same length everywhere, plus I really like the structure. Next, I turned the skirt around and pinned those pieces of extra fabric flat to the skirt. Here's what it looked like. And then I sewed those parts on with a regular straight stitch. This time I made the stitch tiny bit longer. Once that was done, the seams looked like this. I think it's always nicer, plus they lay really nicely flat and they won't bother you while wearing the skirt. Then we come to the next step. Since I was using a homemade pattern, I needed to make a few adjustments before I started sewing on the waistband. I pinned the top part on several places together so that it would stay in place, and then I cut back any excess fabric so that I could achieve a nice line. Once that was done, the line on the top was so much nicer. I measured the necessary amount of an elastic waistband and sewed the ends together with a zigzag stitch. Then I sewed the ends of my suede waistband together. I used a regular straight stitch. Next, I started pinning the waistband to the top part of my skirt. I marked the middle of the front and back part on both the waistband and the skirt, and I also made sure that the seam on the waistband will be in the back. It is very important that you will sew on your waistband with any kind of elastic stitch, because this is the part of your skirt that needs to be able to stretch out. The next step was to position the elastic waistband into your suede waistband. So first I turned the skirt to the bad side. Then I put the elastic waistband in place. I folded the seam to the top, and then I folded the rest of the waistband over it. And then I pinned everything in place. I made sure that all my pins are on the good side, and I also made sure that all pins are at right angles with the waistband. Here is what the skirt looked like once the waistband was ready to be sewed on. Now, here you have the choice between either an elastic straight stitch or an elastic zigzag. I choose the latter because from my experience this one is quite safe, it doesn't get damaged over time, and it looks also quite nice. This is how the waistband looked like once it was finished. The next step is optional. I turned the skirt to the bad side and I started cutting back any excess fabric at the end of the waistband. This is not necessary, but I just like doing that, and I also use the zigzag scissors since I like the structure so much. But if you do that, be very careful because there's always a danger of cutting your skirt, so make sure that you cut really only the excess fabric. There was one more adjustment I had to make before I finished my skirt, and that was the bottom part. I laid my skirt flat on the table so that on one side I will have the front middle and on the other side I will have the back middle. I kept the exact same length in the back. The only difference was that I started using again my favorite scissors, the zigzag scissors, just to make sure that I have a nice edge. And I adjusted the line a little bit so that there are no sharp angles, that the curve is nice, and I continued about to the middle of the side piece. So as I was approaching the front middle, I drew a line with a crayon that would mark where I want to cut. The thing is, I always want to have the front part a little bit shorter than the back part anytime I'm making skirts. The reason for it is the fact that our butts are round, and whenever we are wearing skirts, the butt lifts the skirt up just a little bit in the back. The rounder your butt is and the bigger your butt is, the more it will lift your skirt. That way the front part would be longer than the back part, and we don't want that. This is the reason why I always like making skirts a bit shorter in the front. Now, I was happy with the result, so I started doing the last step, which was just folding the edge of the bottom part and pinning it in place. Once the entire edge was folded and pinned in place, it looked like this. And then I sewed everything in place. Here you can choose between either a regular straight stitch or you can use the elastic zigzag just like I used around the waistband. It is up to you, but since the bottom part is wide, there is no danger of damaging the stitches, so straight stitch would be fine. So that was it, and my skirt was done.
Of course, you do not have to use the exactly same material that I have used. You can use pretty much any stretchy fabric in any shade you like. As long as the fabric is stretchy, it will work. And if you're going to make your skirt and if you plan to post a picture on Instagram of you in your new skirt, you can also tag me so that I can see what you created. Link to my Instagram is down below in the description box. And that was it for today, and next time I'll have my this year's first Halloween costume for you guys. I'm so excited about that. I'm always looking forward to creating some new costumes for you, so if you don't want to miss any future videos, make sure you subscribe. You can hit the button above me or you can visit the description box. There is a link to subscribing together, as already mentioned, with the link to my Instagram account. I will also list there several videos that might be interesting for you, and I will also list there the playlist sewing. And if you liked today's video, don't forget to give it a thumb up, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye!